Hello. Hi. Good evening, everyone. My
Evening.
name is Paramjeet Singh Ahuja. I am working as an assistant professor with SDIET, and I am the event co-convener for this BFSI conclave. Along with the co-convener, Mr. Mohit Kapil, I welcome you all in today's session. To take us through with today's session, I am pleased to introduce our Dean Madam, Dean Academics SDIET, and Chairperson and Convener of this event, Dr. Sangeeta Trehan ji. Dr. Sangeeta Trehan is a top-ranked graduate from Department of Mathematical Science, Purdue School of Science, IUPUI, USA, and from Department of Economics, Delhi School of Economics, Delhi University, and later Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, New Delhi. A PhD from IIFT, MA, DSc, MBA, and MS in Applied Statistics, IUPI, Dr. Sangeeta Trehan has internationally benchmarked education. She has with her over 18 years of experience, primarily in academia, in India and abroad. She taught undergraduates at Indiana University IUPUI campus as faculty for 3 years. Besides IUPUI, she has been an academic visitor to or taught and administered educational research programs at various management engineering institutes and universities in India and abroad, like Trinity College, Dublin, Ireland, IFT Delhi, KJ Somaya Institute of Management, Mumbai, AIT and AU, etc. She conducted research, reviewed some of the course contents, and thus contributed a lot towards the development and promotion of SWAYAM and NPTEL, OERs and MOOCs in 2015 in association with the chief players NPTEL and the CEC, one of the inter-university centers set up by the UGC. She has over a dozen research articles and papers to her credit. She is a dedicated educationalist and an extremely well-versed multidisciplinary academician, a true team builder who always inspires and motivates students and her team members. So Dr. Sangeeta Trehan ji, kindly take us through with today's session.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paramjeet, for that wonderful introduction. And good evening to everyone. And pray that everyone is safe and in fine health. I hope I am audible as well as visible. So I pray that everyone is safe and doing well in their lives with their family and team. Welcome to this inaugural session of this mega 5-day BFSI event organized by Satyug Darshan Institute of Engineering and Technology and Faridabad Management Association in collaboration with HDFC, AMC, NIIT, IFBI, HDFC Life, Sanguine Capital, and Motilal Oswal Securities Limited. On behalf of the organizing team of Satyug Darshan Institute of Engineering and Technology, I extend a very warm welcome to the Honorable Registrar, J.C. Bose University of Science and Technology, Dr. Sunil Kumar Garg, our chief guest. Sri S.K. Sachdevaji, Honorable Chairman, Board of Governors of SDIET, our chief patron, our principal and patron, Dr. Mohammad Noor Deshmukh, our friend and associate, Sri Abhay Kapoorji, President of FMA, our co-organizers, Mr. Alok Shivpurkarji, Executive Vice President and Head HR HDFC AMC Limited, a dynamic and versatile industry leader and today's keynote industry speaker. Dr. Raj Agarwalji, Director of IMA, Center for Management Education, guest of honor, co-conveners from FMA, Mr. Thiagarajan and Ms. Saloni, all faculty members from various management and technical institutes from all parts of India, executives working in the banking and financial sector, FMA and IMA members, research scholars, trainees, interns, and my dear students who have all joined us in large numbers today. My warm greetings to one and all. Now, to tell you very briefly that this event is a culmination of a lot of preparation. We were originally going to hold it face-to-face in April, but it had to be postponed because of the lockdown. So I'm glad that this day has arrived finally, so that we can hold this true confluence of industry and academia. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce Shri Sunil Sachdeva ji, the Honorable Chairperson of SDIIT. And I would just take a couple of moments to introduce you to Mr. Sachdeva ji. Mr. Sachdeva, who is 59 years of age, he comes from a rural background, and he undertook his schooling from a village in Gurgaon district during early 70s. He's an alum of Haryana Agricultural University, and he started his career in 1981. He served for about 39 years, and he has reached to the level of Senior General Manager. During his progressive career, he attended various courses on management and personality development. He's attended senior management course from Administrative Staff College of India, Hyderabad, during 2002. Mr. Sachdeva joined Saraswati Sugar Mills Limited, Yamunanagar, as Senior Vice President in June 2006 and was promoted to the rank of Chief Executive of Saraswati Sugar Mills Limited, thus becoming the youngest COO in the history of this factory. In order to recognize Mr. Sachdeva ji's contribution to sugar industry, Sugar Technology Association of India presented him Industry Excellence Award during the year 2010. So we are really blessed to have Mr. Sachdeva with us. Over to you, sir. Give your blessings and say a few words. Thank you.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta, for giving brief description of my introduction. And I hope all of us are safe and healthy at our homes. So, first of all, I will definitely like to welcome Dr. Sunil Garg, Registrar of YMCA University, who has been the chief guest of this today's conclave. And in addition to that, I will also welcome Dr. Abhay Kapoor, President of FMA, and other dignitaries, my colleagues, members of the organizing committee of this conclave. I would like to add only 2-3 major issues for which we thought of organizing this program. And the 2 major objectives are, one, basically to deal with the latest developments and insights of the experts, how the things are taking shape in banking, financial services, and insurance, and how these opportunities and challenges industry is facing post-COVID. It has been our constant endeavor to provide up-to-date knowledge and industry insight to our faculty through this program, mainly to bridge the gap between the industry and academia. This conclave will definitely go a big way to enrich our students with the latest issues in education delivery. We at SDIIT have strong focus on industry-academia interface to equip our students with better professional exposure and real-time industry insight. We have, you may be knowing that a dedicated UG program in banking and financial services domain called BBA, Industrial Integrated Program for Banking and Financial Services. And this program has been running since 2014. It's probably the most unique program at UG level, perhaps in the entire NCR. Through this conclave, our vision is to further enrich our educational delivery and training to our students. And I'm sure that this conclave would go a long way in connecting ties with industry and academia partners. Even after this event, we will continue to work together to enrich our educational delivery and training for the benefit of our students. I congratulate Chairperson and Convener of this conclave, Dean Madam, and her organizing team from SDIT, co-organizers, Faridabad Management Association, all other industry partners and speakers from HDFC Asset Management Company, NIIT, Sanguine Capital, Motilal Oswal Securities, IMA CME, SDFC Life, and KG Somaiya Institute of Management, Mumbai, who will share their platform during the conclave. And I thank you very much, all the organizers and team members of this event, for putting this program together on SDIT platform. It is already a success the way the people are attending it. I see, and my best wishes for its continued success today and in the days to come. So I thank you all for making this program a challenge under the present scenario and how we should go ahead depending upon the requirements. So I now hand it over to Dr. Sangeeta, our Dean at SDIT, to proceed further with the program. I once again welcome Dr. Sunil Garg ji for this program. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Yes, we are indeed very blessed to have Dr. Sunil Kumar Garg with us as our chief guest. Dr. Garg is presently Registrar, J.C. Bose University of Science and Technology, YMCA, Faridabad. A doctorate from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. Dr. Garg has a vast experience in academia, research and development, industries and administration, spread over about 3 decades. He has served many academic and technical institutions and has been member of several academic bodies, including Indian Society of Surface Science and Technology as founder member, Indian Society of Analytical Scientists as life member, and Indian Society of Technical Education as life member. Now I request Dr. Sunil Kumar Garg ji kindly to say a few words of blessings for us and declare the conclave open and inaugurate it. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm audible, I hope.
Yes, sir, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta, for the introduction. First of all, I would like to congratulate and bless the organizer to arrange such a great confluence of industry and academia on new frontier and skill development in banking, financial services, and industry through and post COVID-19. Like any conclave or a FDP, the aim of this will be to deliberate and update the audience regarding the latest development and insight, in this case about the banking, financial services, insurance, industry, its various segments, various opportunity and challenges industry is facing through and post COVID-19, and the opportunity and skill development for employment in this sector. And a very important objective of this FDP is to further develop industry academia interaction through this conclave. The organizer institute SDIT have a strong focus on industry academia interface so that faculty keep abreast with the latest trends and development in industry, and ultimately our students are equipped with better professional exposure and real-time industry insight. Here I am pleased to inform you, the audience, that the university has a dedicated UG program in the industry domain BFSI, which is the focus of this conclave. The program is called BBA IIF SB Industry Integrated Program with specialization in financial services and banking. This is our flagship program and is most probably the most unique industry integrated program in the BFSI industry domain at the undergraduate level in Faridabad or Delhi NCR. The host institute SDIT has pioneered this program since 2014, and I am told it's the vision of management of the institute to further deepen and enrich this program. I congratulate here the chairman of SDIT, Shri S.K. Sachdeva ji, along with Dr. M.N. Deshmukh, principal SDIT, and another partner in this FDP program, that is Dr. Raj Agarwal, Director, All India Management Association, Center for Management Education, Mr. Alok Shopurkar, Executive Vice President and Head HR at DFC AMC Limited, Mr. Abhay Kapoor, President, Faridabad Management Association, FMA, Dr. Sangeeta Tehran, Dean Academics and convener of this FDP program or conclave. So once again, I congratulate all of you that you have come together to organize this event, and I'm happy to see that more than 300 participants are participating in this event. With these words, I declare the program open and wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Garg, for your kind words of blessings and inaugurating this conclave come FDP. Now, as we all know, Faridabad Management Association is a co-organizer. So I am pleased to introduce Mr. Abhay Kapoor ji, who is the president of FMA, and I would like to briefly introduce him to you. Mr. Abhay Kapoor is a senior HR professional with 27 years of experience in HRM and employee relations. His corporate stint included senior HR leader at Amazon, at Escorts, and Ranbaxy, and LG, Andritz, and so many other corporations in diverse sectors of e-commerce, automobiles, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, consumer durables, engineering, IT, and IT-enabled services. He's held executive roles with professional forums like CII, FICCI, IMA, FMA, PhD, CCI, NHRD, and he has contributed significantly in the area of HR, IR, skill building, and labor reforms. He is president of Faridabad Management Association, local Faridabad chapter of IMA. So I welcome you, Mr. Abhay Kapoor ji, and over to you for your welcome speech, please.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks, Dr. Trehan, for inviting me for this a wonderful conclave, and you already have 375 participants joined in. So happy to be part of this, and on behalf of FMA, I welcome all participants and speakers. And thanks to Mr. Sunil Garg and Mr. Sachdeva and other dignitaries who have been associated with this conclave, come faculty development program. And I think this is a very right time and very prompt topic on which your institute has decided to go for this conclave. And we all know that the entire business and economy is going through a very different environment and different challenges throughout the world due to COVID, and especially the BFSI industry, wherein the economy was already down. Even we've had a lot of challenges. The COVID has thrown a lot more challenges, and the industry, which I'm not from the industry, but whatever I have been seeing and whatever I'm interacting with many people, I think that with very fast digitization, use of more telecom network, with they have been able to build more reliability and speed, and there's a lot of things which bring them to the core to the customer and industry. With this, I think this conclave will throw a lot of new perspective, and you have a galaxy of speakers from the industry, like many of them I know. My dear senior Mr. Alok Shopurkar is there, then Mr. Raj Agrawal, Mr. Vibhushri Nayak, Mr. Amit Doshi, Mr. Jayant. So you have I think, a lot of good speakers lined up over the next 5 days. And I'm sure that with this list of distinguished speakers and very relevant topic, this conclave will be very useful for all the participants and will definitely help the industry and practitioners in upgrading their skills and knowledge. So with these words, I congratulate Satyup Darshan and all the partners for organizing this conclave, and wish all the best for the success of this conclave, and wish you all happy learning. All the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Abhay, for those great words. Now we are also pleased to have with us Dr. Raj Agarwal, who is also our guest of honor. Dr. Raj Agarwal is the director of All India Management Association Center for Management Education. He's a PhD from Allahabad University. He has more than 35 years of experience in higher education and educational administration, nationally as well as internationally, including a visiting assignment as research professor in Montana State University, Billings, US, and as professor and director of IILM Academy of Higher Learning, Greater Noida in the past. He is actively associated with several statutory bodies like All India Council for Technical Education, AICTE, NAC, and National Board of Accreditation, NBA. And he's a board member of many institutes and colleges. So we are pleased to have you with us, Dr. Agarwal, and over to you for your inaugural address, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta Trehan. Good evening, all of you. Mr. Sachdeva, Dr. Sunil Garg, Dr. Deshmukh, Mr. Alok, Sri Abhay Kapoor Sahabji, President Faridabad Management Association, Professor Pankaj Trivedi, Dr. Paramjeet, and dear faculty members and students. I am really very happy to come in this particular seminar, currently organized by SDIET and Faridabad Management Association. This BSIF sector is going through tremendous changes. This is the lifeline of a nation and its people. Financial system that includes banking and insurance, and these are very essential for developing the vital sector of our economy, which have been widely affected by the COVID-19. this sector has translated the hopes and aspiration of million of people into reality. Today, Indian banking and insurance and financial sector can confidently compete with modern banks of the world as well as financial system. As the financial institutions expand and become increasingly complex under the impact of deregulation, innovation, and technological upgradation, it is crucial to maintain balance between efficiency and stability. After liberalization, tremendous change have taken place in our financial market as well as in banking and insurance. Banks as well as insurance sector have set their traditional functions and have been innovating, improving, and coming out with new type of services to cater emerging needs of their customers. Banks have been given greater freedom to frame their policies. Rapid advancement of technology coupled with Industrial Revolution 4 and disruptive technologies have contributed a significant reduction in transaction costs, facilitated greater diversification of portfolio both in insurance and insurance sector. There is a tremendous improvement in credit delivery of banks. Prudential norms in line with the international standards have been put in place for promoting and enhancing the efficiency of banks. The process of institution building have been strengthened with several measures in the area of debt recovery, asset reconstructions, and consolidation conversions of mass banking. Despite this tremendous progress, a serious problem have emerged, reflecting in a decline in productivity and efficiency and erosion of profitability, specifically in the banking sector. There have been a deterioration in the quality of loan portfolio, which in turn has come out in a way of bank income generation and enhancement of their capital fund. Inadequacy of capital has been accompanied by inadequacy of loan loss provision, resulting in adverse impact on the depositor and investors and confidence. Now, here the role of human resource development is one of the key factors to make financial sector more complex and skill oriented. Employing and retaining skilled worker, and for which this seminar has been organized, that how the skill of employees that could be developed, these new skills that could be imparted, that is very important part. Now here, with the rapid growth of this digital technology, there is a complete change which is required in a skills of banking as well as insurance among banking and insurance professional. It became imperative for banking, insurance, and financial sector in India to keep up with the changes and innovate digital solutions by developing the tech-savvy skills and competencies. Currently, in this COVID-19 situation, if we are tech savvy, then most of our banking as well as insurance challenges are solved by sitting at home. Therefore, there is a need that how this tech savvy approach this could be imparted among students. Now, we are seeing and we are witnessing that in urban area, there are competent as well as skill oriented professionals, but we are finding in remote area, still there is a need that how we can develop tech savvy professionals in our country. There are the new kind of innovations that are taking features like this IMPS, features like RTGS, features like NIFT online banking and telebanking, mobile banking, UPI. These are very, very important to be imparted as a skill set among rural sector. Blockchain, this has again emerged one of the important innovation as far as imparting skills among students is considered. This is a new kind of block and latest buzzword, the technology that works on the principles of computer science, data structure, and cryptography, and is the core component of cryptocurrency, is said to be the future of banking and financial services globally. When we talk about the skill set, So skill council, this banking sector and financial sector skill councils, they have defined several levels. So these several levels are applicable at different level, strategic level, tactical level, as well as this operational level. Now here we have to identify among students different kind of this skill sets, and accordingly what is important that with a close collaboration with the industry, how these kind of training this is going to be imparted. I am very happy to see that there is a very wide participation from the banking sector and insurance sector in this particular seminar. And I hope that by having this kind of interaction with industry and specifically with banking as well as this insurance industry, a new set of skills are going to be identified, as well as these are going to be developed. Likewise, certain kind of this skills which have been identified with the change in this industrial sector, in this sector, and because this number of this fintech companies that too have emerged, cloud banking, biometrics, that too have become quite important. So in this kind of context, this basic skills, this analytical thinking, this entrepreneurial skill, one more important, resilience in a high pressure environment. This is very, very important, specifically in banking and financial sector. Visionary approach, communication, customer service skills, along with the skills which are important with the change in this environment and with the induction of this Industrial Revolution 4 and disruption in technologies that is taking place, and this is majorly impacting the banking and financial sector. With these words, I'm really thankful for inviting me and giving me an opportunity, and I'm really thrilled to talk so large number of students and faculty members. They have come, this total number is 374 to participate in this seminar. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Raj, for your inaugural address. Now, we have with us the most dynamic and versatile industry leader, Mr. Alok Shivpurkar ji, and I take this opportunity to introduce him to you. Mr. Alok Shivpurkar is the Executive Vice President and Head HR at HDFC Asset Management Company. He has been associated with organizations like Tata Iron and Steel Company, Grasim, Crompton Greaves, Cadbury Schweppes, and AIG in the capacity of an employee as well as a trainer. Alok presently serves as the Member Executive Committee, NHRDN Network, Chairman of Apex Advisory Committee, Member of Governing Council of SNDT University Mumbai, Member Board of Governance, Symbiosis School of Banking and Finance Pune, Member Academic Advisory Council of Indian Institute of Technology Roorkee, DOMS, Member of Regional Chapter of Development Committee of Financial Planning Standards Board of India, FPSB, Member, Board of Governance of St. Xavier's College of Management Institute. He is also the founder member of Thane HR Group, Mumbai Executive Coach Association. Alok has studied commerce, law and management and has various certifications like Certified Behavior Analyst, OD Practitioner and Qualified MBTI Practitioner to his merit. He is a professional certified coach, PCC, from International Coach Federation, ICF. Alok has contributed several articles in national and international journals and has been a speaker in seminars, symposia, roundtables, and conferences. Alok is a recipient of many awards like Rashtriya Samman Award, Most Influential HR Leader in Asia, IES Award for Creative HR Strategies, GNIMS's HR Professional of the Year, ICFAE's Global Thought Leadership Award, to name a few. So we are very pleased to have you here, Mr. Shivpurkar. Indeed, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here. So we look forward to hearing you for your keynote address, please.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and it's indeed a pleasure to be here. My respect to all the dignitaries here. Am I audible? Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you very much. This has become one of the most prominent questions being asked after COVID.
Indeed.
So I think you have raised the bar of expectation quite high. I will try and live to the expectations, and I feel indeed privileged to be here. And I'm sure this forum in next 5 days will create tremendous value for all their participants and for the BFSI sector. What I intend to cover in next 45 minutes or so is just look at the context in which we are operating, because the skill and the future frontiers will depend upon the business environment. Finally, organizations are slave of businesses, and businesses are slave of economy. Economy is also slave of the geopolitical risk. Currently, this part of the world is extremely tense and hot, I can say, with respect to geopolitical risk. And some people say that maybe next world war would happen in this part of the world. Anyway, that we leave it to the guess of everyone. I would like to also spell out what are the skill sets required for future, and what is that academia can do to support the businesses and the growth of this country. So this is the context I would go ahead with. The best part of being a keynote speaker is that you don't have to answer the questions, because whatever you have said as a keynote address speaker, that's the kind of taken as given. However, I would invite all the people to, wherever they feel this idea or this thought reflects some new thinking in their mind, or they want to note it down for their future reference, please feel free to do so, because there is no question answer session, so there's no clarification would be available. So with this, I take the start of my speech here. Thank you very much once again for inviting me. So what is happening in the global economy? Recently, US Federal Reserve has said they are going to be, and they are ready for infinite QE, quantitative easing. That means they will come with junk bonds. Every paper, regardless of value creation or not, they are willing to print money and also circulate the money. That means this time world is right now sitting on unprecedented amount of money. What would that mean? That means that too few good things will be chased by a lot of money. So there is an equal amount of threat of we all getting into hyperinflation. People are also talking about the hyper bubble. That means some good companies will be chased by money which is sitting on the sidelines. However, market and its move are subject to guess, and I don't think anybody will be able to guess how markets are going to move. Next to India, the area where we all are operating right now, there are quite big geopolitical risk lingering on the growth of this country. One such driver is the China's economic corridor, which they called it one China-Pakistan economic corridor, one belt, one road. That's the they have the road plans, and that will touch or enter some of the Indian territories for which India is not agreeing about, and that's why all this tension. But these tensions will of course raise to the cost of retaining the army there, and therefore it will have a daunting cost on our budgets and economies, affecting our total GDP growth. There is also projection of contraction in the global GDP, and India will see roughly around 4.5% of GDP contraction, and that's what the prediction is all about, recently given by IMF. So in such a situation, it is extremely important that we are sensitive and we understand what is happening, because tomorrow's careers in finance will be built on these realities, these ground realities. So the skill sets, the mindset, the academia and business partnership, the job growth, the labor market growth, and all this will be subject to all these scenarios which are getting built up in and around us. Next geopolitical risk is also that today, after the COVID especially, while till yesterday mantra was globalization, people were trying to supply things, goods to each other and trying to build the economic consumption and growth. But suddenly we have seen that countries have started looking inwardly, and you must have heard the mantra which recently our Prime Minister has given, and that is of Atmanirbhar. So what is the whole gaga about? Right from United States to Europe to Russia to China to India, everybody wants to be independent of external influences, and they want to leverage their own markets. So countries like India or China or some America and some other bigger countries will still be able to survive. But the unfortunate reality is large amount of debt is right now troubling most of the countries in the world, especially the poor countries or economically down countries. So this kind of debt will certainly bring a lot of bankruptcies in global scenario, and therefore global economic health is right now not in the best of the best of the spirit. And India, being part of this world, is certainly not going to remain unaffected by these realities. And so our finance sector, our BFSI sector, or our service industry is also not going to remain unaffected. So this is the context in which we are now talking. Now let's look at the crystal gazing of what is going to happen post-COVID. So let me tell you, there's nothing called post-COVID because we don't see any vaccine or any large-scale medication yet giving assurance. So COVID is here to stay, and many scientists are saying that it's reasonable time that we will live with COVID. Unfortunately, to my surprise, 16, 20, 17, 20, 18, 20, 19, 20, now 2020, mankind has experienced similar kind of epidemic, and still we couldn't prepare ourselves or plan how to deal all these things effectively apart from Ebola and SARS like crisis. So I think somewhere mankind has also taken nature for granted, and therefore we all are paying the price of our past mistakes. Why I am talking about this? Because this is going to determine the future or the post-COVID trends. Those of you who are interested to know more about it, they can visit my LinkedIn profile. I have written an article about post-COVID trends. You can read and comment on that and give me inputs. How did you like, and what is there anything you want to share? But here I will just touch some key points. So first thing is industry and economic activities will be hampered, and it will really take a long time. Second trend is that people are going to look to their roots. That means people are now contemplating whether they should go back to their home, because increasingly technology is enabling work from home or work from anywhere. Also, a lot of labor migration we have seen, they are going back to their roots. Almost everybody has reached. That means the industry in large industrial towns will take a lot of time to restart, and labor crisis is there for real. Next is people are going to be very careful about the food and purity of food, and therefore farming, as we all see, is slowly gathering a lot of prominence. So why I'm talking about all this? Because this is the economic activities which will keep your labor away, or the demand of financial processes away, financial products away, or it will impact it rather, if not away. People will be, a lot of people will be concerned about their health, especially their kids' health. Going to school, standing with 100 students is something which will really put a lot of parents and give jitters to a lot of parents. Urban living will be under question. Similarly, as we use more and more technology, we know that there are cyber attacks, and privacy and fraud, especially cyber frauds, are going to be more frequent scenario. All this is also going to impact especially BFSI sector, because people will now have to revisit their financial plan and their wealth management plans, because many people want to retire early. They may not retire early. Many people wanted to have a very free retired life. They may have to work for longer years. So all these contexts, all these scenarios have direct or indirect bearing on our economic growth, BFSI sector, and so the labor market and employment market growth. Let's look at some of the factors which are impacting the employment growth. One is the household saving. India has been known for large household saving, while the fact is our household saving has moved from 35% to 32%. That means there is a 3 percentage point fall in our household saving. All this was encouraged because people were spending a lot on their day-to-day life, as if we live, There was a slogan saying you live only once. So this is one thing. Why people are saving a lot? Because saving has an impact on economic activities. There is no social security scheme which gives you an assured pension or worry-free retired life or unemployment scheme or bonus or unemployment payments. And it is not possible to create this kind of social security net for a country like India. We are a really vast country. But then the unintended consequence of this is that you save more for your rainy days, and therefore you fuel economic activities less by those percentage of saving. Consumption, which has started growing, will now see little arrest in the spiral, because till yesterday people were taking loan for cars, washing machines, mobile, and all these actions, but today the discretionary spend is going to be under tremendous pressure. And therefore you might have today heard that two very large financial institutions have been rated to junk by Standards and Poor. You can go and do the live mint Google and you will come to know about that. So two large financial institutions paper have been rated as BB+, which is a junk rating. So that is something which is really challenging, and I'm sure similar review would happen for another few more financial institutions. That means their ability to hire, their ability to retain talent, both are going to be impacted. In such situation, there is likely to be little bit of surplus on manpower. Third thing is that the regulation in the BFSI sectors are very, very strict. We are comparable with world-class or global players, global countries in terms of our regulatory framework. However, there are some kind of industries, some kind of specific sectors within the BFSI sector like NBFC or maybe a couple of others which don't have so much of regulation, and they have easily escaped the regulatory requirements, and therefore a lot of frauds have happened. I don't want to take the names of those companies which have indulged into fraud. Some cooperative banks have also burnt a hole in the pocket of small investors or small savers, so as to say, not investors, savers. So all these things create huge dent in the image of BFSI sector. Technology is another thing. Slowly and steadily, we are saying that technology is processing things very faster. You have now pre-approved loan, your loan approved and sanction gets in 2 days. I would recall in 70s when the getting loan used to take more than a month of process, and that's where the companies like HDFC was born. And they said because public sector banks are finding it extremely difficult to lend money for housing purpose, and then the government, since they could not serve the customer, organization like HDFC or Development Credit Bank and ICICI were born, and they are doing successfully the business even today, and they are growing. Also, we have to see that today it is not easy to get loan because the credit rating is something which is being tracked. This is another area which generates the employment for people. So students in financial industry should be mindful that this is also area where you can get employment. So some of the frontiers in providing employment in BFSI sector, I would just name some of them, is like fintech companies. You have Google Pay, you have Paytm, you have then NBFC companies, then you have rating agencies, you have payment banks, you have microfinance companies, you have private equity firm, of course, bank, insurance, mutual fund. I am not taking them that all of us know about. As a student of financial finance, one should be very clear that what is he or she wants to do in his or her career. You might have seen one question is always asked, why finance students or finance professional gets paid so well? And I must tell you one thing, the whole purpose why finance professional would get more than the other engineering or arts or other students, maybe economics graduates even get more, because they withstand the risk. Their job risk is very high. Hire and fire is very prevalent in BFSI sector as compared to manufacturing. Predictability is low and risk factors are quite high. So these are some of the factors which make the financial services more rewarding. But considering the risk, I would say they are all the same level, because the chances of losing job are quite high. Let's look at the labor market. What is happening in the labor market today? See, India has millions of people who are self-employed. I also call them self-exploited. Why self-exploited? Because when somebody who is generating economic activity, he doesn't factor or she doesn't factor in the family effort, the labor put in by wife and kids and other people. So this, in order to meet the competition, in order to keep their costs low, they don't factor in all those things, and therefore they get exploited directly and indirectly. We as a country have to be mindful of one thing, that banks can lend money, but banks cannot spend. And the most employment generation is not done by large industries, but that is done by small and medium scale industry. Now, challenge for banks today is that SME sector also brings a lot of NPS, that's a non-performing assets. Against the global standard of 2-3%, India's SME sector or MSME sector brings around 20% of NPA. And I would not hesitate or express my concern that while this makes business lending very difficult, but one thing is sure, that this also has a lot of corruption in this area, adversely impacting the economic growth of the country. All these things are factoring the employment market, labor market, and the prospects of the economic prospects of the country. Now let us look at how COVID has changed the game. So COVID can really be a big opportunity for India. I would compare it even bigger opportunity in 1991 when India decided to open its markets. So this offers a tremendous policy making opportunity for nation and create a new charter for India's economic freedom for next 30 to 50 year roadmap point of view. I am sure people will be doing, there's going to be policy making, and academia will participate in policy making framework in terms of supporting government, in terms of finding out how farm labor is moving to non-farm activities, because that migration has happened long back in China and America to create the economic value, because farm labor has limited ability to create economic value and economic activity. It is a non-farm activities which create more economic value, and that's how the consumption get affected. While all these is fine, but we also should be mindful of one fact, that India's per capita income is lower than 135 other countries. So it is a sad thing, but I would say it is also an opportunity for us to increase our per capita income. So bring a lot of freedom to people to do economic activity. And I'm sure this COVID as a game changer will accelerate all these things. And students who are now graduating or who have graduated or who are likely to choose finance as sector will keep these factors in mind. With respect to skills and training, financial service jobs, I have already told you, they get paid, etc. But now my experience as a professional who has been dealing with people from financial service sector for almost 18 years, I have some of the impressions which I would like to share with you. And I am sure all of you pick up some thread from here to revisit your capability and your, similarly for academia also, they may pick up some input for this to build their future charter. One is BFSI sector is increasingly becoming technology firms. So now a lot of engineers from IITs and other premier institutes are being hired by banks and insurance companies and other companies, because technology, chatbots and all those things are going to be way we live. Similarly, artificial intelligence, machine learning and all those activities are going to influence. I don't want to talk on these things in detail because I am sure next 4 or 5 days you are going to deliberate on this thing. So there is going to be new avatar of BFSI sector, which is going to be combination of finance, behavior, people behavior, and third is technology. Bank and insurance sector covers for lion's share of employment, which is likely to continue. I don't see much change here, but let's see how NBFC and other companies evolve. There are companies which are coming up, specialized education loan companies, specialized aggregators who are doing aggregation and bill discounting, So these some of the new players are emerging. Payment I have already spoken about, like Google Pay and Vodafone Pay and Paytm and so on and so forth. Next, employment opportunity would come more from the firms which will provide you the innovative product, service-based products, doing investor services, client services, because service is going to be the game changer. So digital marketing and firms like Policy Bazaar and all will get redefined, and there also is going to be a lot of employment opportunity. But let me articulate here that next 12 to 24 months have reasonable challenge ahead of us, and we as a country will have to take really big policy action before we say yes, we are all set and dust has settled post-COVID. From an academic institution point of view, I would say that my experience is that a lot of MBA in finance have no idea what is asset allocation, what is personal financial planning, what is taxation, what is Section 80C, and what is new pension scheme, how it saves the tax. While finance is all about the cash flow and ensuring that the proper investment is made by treasury function, but one should take much wholesome and much larger view as a student of finance than just doing the or sticking to finance only. I would also encourage a lot of students, which we have done at HTFC, encouraging them to do NISM certifications like NISM 10A, 10B, 5A, and so on and so forth, 5C. Students should also look and join our app, which gives you instant certification on many things. It is also part of your education and skill building, which will help you to get better employment, better recognized, because all these things will certainly add to your knowledge and help you to become a well-rounded finance professional. A finance professional is one who understands management, who understands economics, who understands finance, who understands accounting. So as a finance and also people behavior. So as a finance professional, you should have a 360-degree view. So this is the something which I thought I will talk about it. As a finance student, you should also understand what is insurance, what kind of insurance. For example, what is life insurance, what is term insurance, what is the accident insurance, what is the medical cover, what is mutual fund, what are the different type of mutual funds, how to do investment in equity, what is a put option, what is a call option. Know all these things, learn, use your time, and faculties, I would invite you to really encourage your students to do all these things. I am sure institutions like yours would be doing it. I have also some pointers for the institutions, having worked on many boards. I have some insights which I would share without hesitation. And idea is not to say that I know more, but idea is to probably these discussions would give new thinking, fresh triggers to charter your next 10-year agenda, because I would like to see your institution gathering a lot of prominence and becoming at least one of the top-notch institution in country in terms of education and in terms of development of and contributing to the nation. That's the biggest thing. Rest everything is irrelevant to me. Do you contribute to the nation? I will come to that. Also, students of finance must understand that how to protect individuals' wealth, financial wealth, and intellectual wealth. So finance student must contribute, must do projects, must do research around it, work with professors, and really come up with world-class research, because I think the nation will grow only when our institutions are hub and center of creating new policy, global thinking direction, and also create the research which puts India in a better position in global ranking. Academic institution like old days ashrams, where Sri Krishna had to finally take a bow and go to Sandipani's ashram. Vishwamitra has taught to, and I'm talking of mythology, Eklavya got affected just by the statue of Dronacharya. So what I want to say that can we become those ashrams which create relentlessly supply of talent and help India to really get a position which India as a country deserves. Today, if we don't have Yale, if we don't have MIT, and if we don't have Stanford, we will never progress, and we will really not do the true service to the bottom of the pyramid and the poor of this country. I also say that people of finance students should also know what is will, how to write will, how to write a gift deed, how to do the financial plan, what is the difference between saving, what is the difference between investing. And professors and teachers should continuously encourage and do a session for the students and the institutions and the business institutions. So there should be some centers which will do financial planning center, center for financial planning, center for wealth creation, center for economic policy research. And professors should be in charge of this and continuously do benchmark, and I'm sure this is happening everywhere. So now I am talking about what academic institutions should do. I am hoping with folded hand, please don't take, I am not trying to teach teachers. This is my knowledge sharing, and I hope I have the permission to talk about this. So first is invest in faculty. When I say invest in faculty, that means, let me tell you very honestly, when I interact with faculty, sometimes many faculty I find are very neutral too, because they are so much busy in academic activities, they are academic administration, and they are not truly creating to the body of knowledge and body of research. So this is something which does not does not improve the quality of academia institution partnership. Academia institution partnership needs to be redefined. It's a very big word, but most of the time institutions think that they have done good job by inviting some industry experts, conducting some guest lectures, and that's it. But 10 years down the road, which student will remember what that guest teacher has taught? So if we do the sessions for faculty, that is where the permanent imprint on the institution's style of teaching will get impacted, and that's where institutions will create and produce world-class talent. It's a catch-22 situation, good student versus good institution. You will say, let the good students come and then I will build good institution. But I say, no, first you build good institution and let the good students come. Because in the e-world, I would not be surprised that some few days later, the global courses are going to come to India, and Yale's campus will be, earlier Yale and Stanford could have become a good hotels or good entertainment ground, but post-COVID even that scope has gone because hotel industry is ruined. So therefore, I think institutions are under serious threat in terms of the content, the quality of education. So institution needs to redefine, otherwise like several thousands of engineering colleges, management institution will also collapse, and it will do the biggest disservice to this country. So I would appeal institutions, those who are here, faculties, to revamp their quality of research and quality body of knowledge. So some of the indicator KRA for institutions and faculty members, I have noted only 3 KRAs. That's for 2030, not for 2020, 2030. Are you engaged by more than 5 organizations among top 100 companies of this country? Are you engaged as an institution by minimum 5 organizations among top 100 business houses or companies to provide insight into their problem and their issues of growth or people? So that's the one criteria institutions should set as a KRA and work towards it. Second, do you have faculty who are coaching minimum 10 CEOs of the companies which are more than 30,000 crores of market capitalization? If your faculty is coaching the CEOs of market capitalization 30,000 crores and above, you can say, yes, we are now started to arriving in industry in today's context, not in tomorrow's context, because milestones will keep changing and journey will go on. There's no end to this journey. This is a continuous journey, and today's leader will have to successfully hand over the baton to the future leaders and create those leaders. Is institution working on minimum 20 projects which will solve the people problems or public issues? So these are the 3 KRAs I have said, and you all are much more knowledgeable to understand what is that you need to do. I thought I will just by articulating these KRAs trigger a new thinking, or request you all to visit it again, because I am sure your institution, your board of governance would have these things in mind. The only thing is when that mind travels to the ground, when the rubber meets the road, and that's the day we as a country, as a nation will grow and really bring meaningful, create meaningful, world-class, large-size BFSI sector, which will provide not only employment, but also financial security to millions of people in this country. A couple of other things for the students and the faculty to teach people. One is, Teach them sell what they are going to buy. You can't sell equity scheme, high equity scheme of small cap to 70-year-old retired person and take 30 lakhs rupees off his portfolio and then wait him to get 30, 40, 50% erosion in his portfolio. It's a crime. It's a crime. Help them to design financial plan, give them case studies to do financial planning. I'm more than happy to support. We have enough infrastructure to support you all. More than happy to support and stand by you. And if I can contribute, always there. What is the definition of asset allocation? How to skill, building skills when organization cannot spend on you. Look, organizations are having limited resources today. Organizations cannot spend on training each and every resource. Even if organizations spend money, organization will spend money on training resources which are relevant to the organization. But organization's agenda and individual agenda could be divergent. Organization will see 3 to 5 years. Individual has to see 30 years of career for himself or herself. So their building blocks many a times would be different from which is ordinarily looking to an overlapping impact. It's not going to that. So how faculty, how academic institutions can partner creating the workforce of future is the challenge which we have today. And as a keynote speaker, I would like you all to think about what I am saying. Maybe it's a repetition, but at the cost of repetition, I am just reminding rather, and all of you know this, but I thought I'll take liberty to articulate these things. Let's look at the skills and skills of the future, because future skills for the BFSI sector leaders or managers or executives, one thing is clear. One is a top-notch requirement is a relationship building skills. In BFSI, relationship building is the crux of the game. People will give you blank check if you have relationship. And if you don't have relationship, you will not get 1 rupee. All of us know how difficult it is to take out 1 rupee from somebody else's pocket. It is not easy. The relationship is only mantra, and relationship when built around the trust, if you build the trust and you understand what is trust building is all about, and institution need to help coach, develop, call the people back to campus and teach them what is resilience, what is trust building, what is selling skills, what is that you can do to bring the multiplier effect. Another thing is very important. Many finance students which I have experienced did perform very poorly is they don't know numbers well. And I can challenge right now to this audience. You ask in interview, what do you get when you multiply 1, 3, 13 with 8? 7 out of 10 students cannot respond, and they are MBA finance. So my one thing we should have compulsory that up to 15, you should know table by heart. Otherwise, we are not going to issue MBA finance. Even if you have calculator, you have Excel sheet, instant number crunching has no substitute as long as human intelligence exists. So that is one thing. Also, finance students should work on business intelligence. What is business intelligence? Read about it. Read, improve the your reading dose or reading medication, I would say. Read Economist, read the Economic Times, create a battery of readings which you must read there. So business intelligence, you should know what is happening. How today people who have invested in commercial assets thinking that rent discounting will feed them for rest of their life are today facing the day of reckoning. Today there are no commercial places are being let out so easily. The real estate players are being asked to discount their rents and discount their prices, everything under severe pressure. The ball has been set to 0. Second, so this as a part of executive presence, business intelligence is one. Second is risk-taking ability. What is risk-taking ability? Is ability to change with ambiguity, ability to deal with change, which is constantly happening. Move beyond comfort zone. I will tell you yesterday, one of the relationship manager of HDFC Bank, it's not because my bank, but I am genuinely telling the case so that students here can learn from it. I called up my relationship manager to deal with one issue of somebody known to be in Pune. This manager lady managers from Delhi went all out to resolve the problem, even when she was not the relationship manager. This acquaintance of mine shouted at him. She took his shouting very coolly, but at the end of the day, she resolved the problem. She told me that this is how he behaved with her. Then I spoke to that person, and of course, then I had a good exchange with him. But he apologized. He given a written apology. But what I'm saying is the going beyond the call of duty, going beyond comfort zone, crossing the boundaries and delivering what is being expected to retain the brand of the company is supreme quality. Executive presence requires this. Next is interpersonal relationship. Interpersonal relationship is very, very important ingredient in trust building. Banking, the word bank is to trust. I bank on you. You can't bank without trust. And if you can't bank, you can't invest. So a lot of thing depends on trust. So how do you communicate clearly? How do you lead and manage things? How do you deliver performance improvement? How do you redefine your skills? And how do you redefine your own care and continuously upgrade your knowledge is something which is the important for finance professionals to completely revamp, visit their skill sets. Students, skills I have spoken about, number skills, your IT skills, your ITES skills, your finance skills, understanding finance, understanding other streams of management, what is happening in geopolitics, how global banks are unleashing tremendous amount of liquidity, and so on and so forth. What is going to be impact? Can you do the financial planning for your family? I think that's, as a doctor, when the doctor does MBBS, if he can't put an injection to somebody, what is he doctor for? So if as a finance graduate, if you can't write a gift deed, if you can't help somebody to script will, I think this is not something which is very appreciative of. You will be one more labor, if I have to say, and no dignity issue on the labor. You don't call yourself manager. You have to call manager when you can provide the direction of future. You have to become a leader and influencer. Otherwise, as a finance professional, we have very difficult time, because tomorrow's employment is only for those who will make the difference. So this is what I had to offer as a keynote speaker. I am sure students, faculty member, and the institution would have got some thoughts, some food for thought. I'm also work in progress. Finally, I would like to sum up this talk by saying, मंजिल उन्हीं को मिलती है जिनके सपनों में जान होती है. मंजिल उन्हीं को मिलती है जिनके सपनों में जान होती है. पंखों से कुछ नहीं होता, हौसलों से उड़ान होती है. Thank you very much for inviting me. You have been great audience, and it's indeed pleasure and privilege to be here. Thank you very much. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chirpurkar. I have no words of appreciation actually to thank you enough. I think your passionate plea, your keynote speech is very well taken, and I'm sure the audience is delighted. We have a flood of messages on the chat window. Yes, sir, you have touched upon some very, very important issues. I would definitely like to reiterate one part, which is for us, academic leaders and academicians. Yes, you have given us a very, bold kind of a roadmap for the next 10 years or so, when you spoke of those key responsibility areas, KRAs, and very, very thoughtfully put. 3 KRAs that you mentioned. Number 1 was being engaged by 5 organizations out of top 100 companies to provide them insight. So that means the academia has to raise their stature, the research stature, the consultancy, to such a level that they are sought after, they are considered valuable, and they are reached out for providing insight by, the top-notch organizations. So that would be quite a big, a leap forward for academia of the country. Secondly, you said that we should, target or make a roadmap to be able to coach 10 CEOs of companies with market specialization, more than 30,000 crores. Again, that's a very big, I mean, KRA, and definitely it's worth pursuing. And thirdly, you said that at any point of time, we need to endeavor to work on 20 projects that will solve people or industry's problems. So I think that is a great thought leadership, and it is no surprise because you have been associated with the best of institutions, and you've been on the boards of so many top-notch academic institutions. So I'm sure this is the insight. This is a message for all the academic institutions of India. And I think this is a great agenda for all of us to follow. Your words of advice, and I would say very, very nicely the way you have put for the students, how they should increase their credentials, NISM certifications, relationship building as the key skill in BFSI, building the trust, selling skills, resilience, and also very importantly the number sense and the analytical acumen. They should be knowing the business intelligence and the emphasis on reading, and also the human aspect of it, that not just pure selling but also being a problem solver and helping people design their financial plans, supporting them. And I really appreciate, sir, for your offer of supporting us in that, like you said, that you could support with infrastructure. So we would definitely get back to you, maybe with some designs of some student projects and all, and we'll see how we can, avail some of the support systems. So with those words, I really, thank you a lot for all your kind words, and I'm sure the audience is delighted, and they have, helped. They have been helped a lot. Now, with these words, we are coming towards the closure. I'm delighted to have also with us Dr. M.N. Deshmukh, who is the principal of the institute. Dr. Deshmukh is a PhD from IIT Delhi and MTech from NIT Bhopal, and he has about 2 decades of academic experience, rich experience in teaching, research, development, and administration. He has an expertise in mechanical properties testing, and he's been involved in mechanical failure analysis consultancy. He has developed many engineering colleges from scratch, and he is the head of SDIIT in the capacity of the principal. So I'm delighted to welcome you, sir, and actually call you to kindly deliver a vote of thanks to the speaker and all the guests that we have today.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to give the vote of thanks to the able speakers. I'd start at the outset with Shri S.K. Our Chairman Board of Governors, Mr. S.K. Sachdeva, for finding time to be with us on this occasion. Dr. Sunil Kumar Garg, Registrar, J.C. Bose, University of Science and Technology, for readily agreeing, despite his very busy schedule, to be with us and give us his blessings and be here and open our conclave. And thank you, sir, for your presence and your agreeing to bless us for this on this occasion. I also thank Mr. Abhay Kapoor, who is our co-organizer from FMA, Dr. Raj Agarwal from IMA, and of course Dr. Alok Shivpurkar for the wonderful and insightful keynote address. I thank you, sir, for those milestones which you have pointed out, and you have pumped our hauslas, and we are sure that we'll cross those milestones which are yet to come, and our faculty have taken those points, those insightful suggestions. I hope the industry personnel and the students here also enjoyed and were enlightened by those very high level, I can say, the keynote address of yours, sir. I also thank Mr. Thyagarajan, Dr. Pankaj Trivedi, and my colleagues, Paramjeet, Mohit Kapil, and others. It will be difficult to name all of them. And above all, the audience for attending in such a large number. I think it is one of its kind in the NCR region that we have gathered an amalgam of various people from academia, industry, and we at SDIET, we are always concerned with our interaction with the industry, because academia alone are, you can say, of no use unless until we have an interaction with the industry. But I would like to take this opportunity to point out another dimension, especially it becomes more relevant post-COVID. So many things we have realized post-COVID, especially we have seen the state of the migrant workers and all. So there is another dimension to the industry institute interaction, and that is that we rope in the society and the societal problems. If we don't do that interaction, the very interaction of industry, academia, and whatnot will not serve the purpose. With that, I'll also like to give some food for thought as my parting statement, although I am not of this domain, but I'd like to quote Godfrey Bloomer, a British parliamentarian. He gave a speech in the European Parliament in 2013. I'd like to quote his statement. All the banks are broke. Standards, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, etc., etc. Because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that the banks can lend money that they actually don't have. So this is something which has pricked me, and I feel the conclave should give some food. I'm giving this as a food for thought for the days to come, and I'm sure people will look into the serious statement given by Godfrey Bloomer. And he has also added to that, it's rather hurting for the bankers. Let me again quote, when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. So basically there is something wrong because of which the society has suffered, and I think it's the right moment and the right milestone to stop and think over that what has gone wrong. And there is something wrong. The economy, world economy has taken a beating because of some very fundamental flaw in the entire economic plan, the banking, etc. Especially there are stalwarts here from the bank. I am no one to speak on that, but I feel that it is a good food for thought. The inequitable distribution of wealth, the human aspect. It's time that we started thinking in the terms of human beings rather than customers. I think I have spoken a lot. With that parting statements, I would again like to thank especially our keynote keynote speaker and Dr. Sunil Kumar Gargji for all the dignitaries and all the speakers which are yet to come. And I promise that all the coming 5 days will be a high level of learning and will leave you with a great insight. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you, madam.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Deshmukh. you really touched upon towards the end some of the, I would say loopholes or some of the ills of the system, which of course, the statement that you quoted, of course, came after the subprime crisis of 2008 and the ills of fractional reserve system. So it's a huge topic. I would not like to dwell on it at this point, especially because we have it in our agenda and for the subsequent days. But it's very insightful to hear your parting comments. Now, I again thank all the participants and all the guests. And now it is time for all of you to also fill the short feedback form that we have pasted on the chat window. It's a feedback from attendance form. And now I would like to invite my teammate and the co-convener of this conclave come FDP, Mr. Paramjeet, to take you over a curtain raiser for the remainder of this conclave come FDP over the next 4 days. So over to you, Param.
Thank you, ma'am. I once again thanks not only the dignitaries of the day, but to each and everyone present, including me, our speakers of the day, Dr. Raj Agrawal ji, and especially Mr. Alok Shivpurkar ji for his wonderful address. The basic idea of this conclave is to create value and enhance our experiences in this BFSI sector in particular. And Mr. Alok Shivpurkar ji has correctly set the tone for this 5 days mega event starting today. Now let me take you through the agenda, what all we are having for all of us in the coming 4 days. We all know that BFSI sector comprises of various financial services industries and sectors, including insurance, banks, mutual fund, financial market, and many more. So we have dedicated the specific days with a specific theme on a daily basis. Starting from day 2, which we have dedicated to the insurance sector, the speaker for the day will be Mr. Vibhash Nayak, Executive Vice President HR, Learning and Development and Admin from HDFC Life. So in day 2, we will be discussing on the theme taking into account the insurance sector. Day 3 will be dedicated to the banking sector, for which we are going to have 2 speakers. The first speaker will be Mr. S. Devasilan, Deputy General Manager, retired from Bank of Baroda, with a rich 35-year plus experience. And the second speaker of the day will be Mr. Amit Doshi, Deputy Vice President, Business Head, Mumbai Retail, HDFC AMC Limited. Similarly, the day 4 will be dedicated to the financial market, and we are going to listen Mr. Rohit Gupta, AVP coming from Motilal Oswal Securities Limited, and the second speaker, Mr. Jayant Quatra, who is the founder director of Sanguine Capital Financial Services Private Limited. Day 5, we are going to have an integrated session which will cover the agendas talked about in all the 4 days. This address will be delivered by Dr. Pankaj Trivedi ji, Professor and Chairperson of Finance and Law, KJ Somaya Institute of Management, Mumbai. I hope you all enjoyed today. You all learned a lot. We are very sure of, as an SDIT family, that it is going to enhance our learning in a much more productive manner and will make us ready for the coming future. So all the very best. Stay tuned. We will meet tomorrow, same time. One more thing which I would like to add on here, that for every day we are going to share meeting IDs with the audience, as we did for today. to your email IDs registered with us. So by this, we are going to call it off for the day. Once again, thank you everyone. Thank you for the participation. Stay tuned for the next 4 days, and we are going to have a very good time together. And we will keep on trying to connect with such conclaves and webinars in futures as well. Because this is the philosophy of SDIIT, to connect academia with industry for the better learning of both the sectors. Thank you everyone. Thank you very much.